Party people, it's your girl Kat, and you are tuning in to Soft Chats with Kat. So, I think I told you guys on the last episode that I was gonna bring my accountability partners onto the episode, and here they are, guys! So, this is Angel, this is Jenna, and that is Janice. Not that, she is Janice, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I wanted to get them on this episode because, like I've been saying, they have played a vital role in holding me accountable and people who really see me. And you really need to have those type of people in your life if you're gonna go where you're gonna go, because a lot of people don't see you as a person, and your goals and your dreams, and people are quick to talk negative about what God has put inside your mind and your heart. So with that, we will get started, but we're gonna talk about something that I think a lot of us don't really talk about. I don't know if you guys know, one day I hope to have a family, and there's some things in my life that I've learned from my family and my parents especially that I do want to bring, the traditions on. And there's some things that I'm like, okay, that's not gonna go with me and the legacy and the future of my life. But let's get started. We're gonna start off with my lovely guest. And the first question, I guess we can start off is just, we'll go down the line,
Yeah.
We'll start with you, Angel. Well, the first question is what is something that you have learned along the way growing up, being raised by your family, and you could tell a little bit about your background that you want to bring with you into your family and your generations to come.
Yeah. So, hi you guys. Nice to meet you guys. So, a little background of myself. I am Nigerian American. So, both my parents immigrated from Nigeria at a very young age. And I was born in the States, but everything around me is Nigerian. My friends, culture, family, the way I was raised was how they were raised. So one thing that growing up is they didn't really ask us about our passions and stuff like that. And also they kind of treated all of us the same. So background, there's 5 of us. So there's 5 kids and we're all different in age. And I think when my parents started to raise us, they kind of raised everyone the same. So they didn't really know us as an individual, but more as the collective. So it wasn't until college that me and my mom had a real relationship, when she realized that, hey, the way I talk is different than how my sister talk, and the way I do some things, we had different motives. So when she understood that you have to treat each child as a collective, just because you do the same thing, there's 2 different thought processes. So it's something that I really appreciate my mom for, learning. It took later in life for us to get there. But I definitely want to really know each of my kids and not just be the whole, I'm your mother, I raised you, and you have to do what I say. But no, listen from where I'm coming from. What about yourself? You just asked them, Kat, was that enough of a response for you?
Yeah. And you guys, I didn't know that about Angel, so me and her have a lot in common than I thought about our parents, because they're like, if you're not a lawyer or a doctor, you're a failure.
Which sounds crazy, but that's really how it is.
What about you, Jenna?
Hey, please ignore my face, I'm on the makeup.
But she's still beautiful.
So my background, I'm Creole, I'm American, but I'm from Louisiana, and so I think that word gets passed around a lot, like Creole, Cajun. And I want to clear up first what it really is. So Creole is generationally African, Spanish, French, and African. And so there's a lot that can happen within that, but culturally within that. But my personal experience, actually, I feel like my parents did a really good job raising us. It's funny because this whole gentle parenting thing that has come about, where people are like, don't do this and don't do that, and it's controversial, right? The whole gentle parenting thing. But I look back on my childhood and I'm like, no when we were gentle parented,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't, there was none of this talking back situation going on here, but we were gentle parented. My parents really did listen to us, and they really did, they were interested in what we were interested in. They allowed us to be individuals. So that is nice, and I want to take that into in your book, Kat. I hope to one day be a mother and have a family, and that individuality. That's something I really want to take into my parenting as well. Those kinds of traditions. Something I really love that my parents did, and I think this may be a cultural thing, but I'm not sure it's exclusive to the Creole culture. The Creole culture, our Creole culture is that siblings, we're close. We're like very, very close, but it's forced. If you get if one of you is in trouble, you all better figure it out. Like if you, but it created camaraderie, and because of that, it turns into a generational thing.
So you said, what was it that you want to keep?
Yeah, so some of the things that I definitely want to keep is that closeness. Forcing my kids to be friends. Honestly, we were forced to be friends, but now it's like I know I always have somebody to call. You know what I mean? Even when we're mad at our parents, we're like, "What did you chick did?" We get on the phone and it's whatever. And I don't know. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that my parents allowed us to be individuals, not disrespectful, but individuals, and express ourselves and have an opinion. My parents really did allow us to have an opinion. They might not like the opinion, and you're gonna hear about it, but they did allow us to have that freedom, and I think that that's really nice. There isn't much as far as I can't really pinpoint one thing that I'm like, I never want to do that.
Yeah.
There may be a few things here or there that I'm like, I don't agree with the way that that was handled. But another thing that I like to keep in mind is my mom specifically was very young when she had me, and she didn't have a mom to go off of either. So it was otherwise little mistakes and stuff, being forgiving and having grace for your parents, I think plays into that a little bit. But as far as our traditions and stuff, they did a solid job. I really have to say, they did pretty good.
And then can I jump in?
Yeah.
So one thing that you said that's very different from the way I was raised is you're friends with your siblings. So being Nigerian, our background is everything's respect. It's too much respect. So just the older discipline the younger is your parents. So just don't talk to me, I'm your older sister. You have to it was very hard to be friends because I'm not your age mate. We're not friends. I'm your sister, I'm your mom. It's now that I'm in my adulthood that I see my mom as a friend before. She was like, I'm not your friend, I don't want to be. Which there's a time and place for that. I totally get it. But even with my siblings, the African culture, everything is respect. So if you're 2 years, 3 years older than someone, it's just they don't view you as a friend. They view you as someone that you have to look up to. So it's auntie, it's miss, it's sis. So I feel that's something I'm definitely gonna try to incorporate. Still have respect for elders because of generation.
And we had that. We definitely still had to be respectful. I'll tell you a tradition that I'm probably gonna force on my kids is when you walk in the room, you speak. Regardless of who's there, especially if they're older than you. You do not walk in the room and just sit down. If you walk in a room and don't speak, it's excuse me. Hello, how are you? You don't do that. So
And I will say, Jenna, she is the founder of Imagine Films, and she really, one of the things that she's really good at is I feel we're all sisters, but she keeps us not, you could say she forces us, but she makes
the thing.
She's doing
You will be friends.
You'll get over it. But when she has to take control, she takes control. But she makes sure that everyone is seen and heard, and at the same time, she makes us get along if we're fighting. Which is good. You gotta have something like that, But What about you, Janice? I'm sorry, my Janice.
Well, I guess I am a mother. I have raised two children. They are adults now. I have a 21-year-old and a 26-year-old. And I've had to learn now to release control.
Oh yeah.
And I've had to pray about that because, you know, when they were growing up, you know, I was always there, you know, making them do things. How are you doing in school? You know, worried about, you know, their extracurricular activities and what they were doing outside
Yeah.
of home and, you know, in the home. And we raised them to be individuals and to also be respectful, to never embarrass us outside of the home, definitely. When you go into a room, to have eye contact and to speak and to not look down, you know, you just don't do things like that. And regardless of how you feel about someone, be respectful.
Yeah.
You know, you can still be respectful and not get along. So now my growing up, I was raised by a single mother until I was probably 8 years old. She joined the military. She never raised me to be, you know, to think of people of color as something different. Like, that was just how it was. You love everyone.
Yeah.
And that's how I was raised. And then I was put up for adopted at age 12.
Wow.
And wound up in a family in North Georgia, in the country. Totally different environment. This is when I experienced racism for the first time. Just, you know, really eye-opening.
Yeah.
You didn't, I mean, being a child, you don't know. But yeah, it's totally different. So, you know, definitely I did not take that into my traditions. Because I, you know, I want my children to know, you know, they have the best of both, they're mixed children, they have the best of both worlds, they white and black. And to me, that's just even better with, you know, how the world is. You should be kind to one another always and be respectful and listen to other people. Listen to their point of view, their side, because not everybody has your point of view or side. So,
What kind of you know, you say that your children are biracial.
yes.
So I'm sure there's some traditions from both sides. Have you, being able that you raise them, have you been able to incorporate both cultures into the traditions?
Oh yes,
That's good.
yes. We always celebrated both sides of the family. You know,
Nice.
we would go to my side of the family and visit their dad's side of the family. Even with my style of cooking, I learned how to cook soul food. I mean, you know, I learned collard greens and cornbread.
Good too, y'all.
I learned to cook that food, and then, you know, I didn't really know where I actually came from, but I just realized, you know, I found out through DNA testing with the ancestry that I have a grandfather from Louisiana, and they come from the Cajun part. They come from the Cajun, which is different than Creole, right? And I'm learning all that too, and I can cook red beans and rice.
Yes.
I can cook jambalaya. Yeah. So I embrace the food too.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I hope they take that on as a tradition of food and, you know, what being around eating as a family is, and, you know, staying in touch. But we always told, you know, our children too that, you know, you always have each other.
Yeah.
You are, you know, half of both of us, and you're always going to have each other to rely on to be there for each other. And at first they didn't get along because there's a 6-year difference between their age, but now they call each other, they talk to each other, they're there for each other. So
That's good.
Speaking of food, I think for me, one of the traditions that I want to keep within my family is the traditional Laotian food. Although I'm not privy of how to cook most of it, I think I need to learn before my grandma passes away. But, there's YouTube, you know. But what I've noticed with the YouTube is that it doesn't taste like grandma's cooking.
Of course not.
Yeah,
No,
so
of course not.
I think I gotta ask her or my aunts. But yeah, that for me, it's since food is like a love language. it's a way for us to come together as a family and just commune with each other. I really want to keep the whole eating dinner all together at the dinner table. So I miss that. When I go back home, we don't really do that as much, but that was something that we had to do every day. Like we had to wait till my dad got home and then we would eat dinner together at the family table. So that's something I want to keep.
Yeah, that's obviously I'm sure you being Nigerian too, food is such a thing.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of my culture is centered around our food.
Yeah.
And even just like seafood for us, like it's so funny because they'll be like, oh, crawfish, that's like the most popular seafood dish, I feel like, of Louisiana. People typically know that Louisianians eat crawfish.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's so much work, like to get the little bit of meat out. And I'm like, but you're missing the point of it. The point is, it wasn't, now it's like a delicacy, right? Like they spend all this money on seafood.
Yeah.
But back in the day, it was poor food. So it was a way to be social. It was social food. It was, we're distracting from the little we have to kind of gather. And I agree with you. That's something that I want to definitely keep in my cultural traditions as well. We actually go home once a year for Good Friday to do that. For like everybody to get together and all the cousins that we don't get to see, and we get together and we just cook and boil a bunch of seafood and talk and catch up, and that's really important to me too, that like my future family have ties to that, and whatever traditions my husband.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the husband. Shoot.
You too. Which is so funny because we didn't do that growing up.
Oh really?
No, we did not. And even all my friends, I don't think any of us did that. Because, since most of my friends and myself, since we're first generation, our parents were just trying to make ends meet. So they're working.
Yeah.
So most of our parents growing up, my mom, luckily, we were an exception because they were home most of the time, but most African parents are never home. So it's like the kids, it's raising ourselves. So that's why most of the older siblings raised us. And that's why it's like you will respect me. Aside of saying Nigerians, like, I'm not your age mate. Like, you can't talk to me like how you talk to your friends. Like, I'm not your age mate. So yeah, growing up, we didn't do stuff. I feel like we were all very hyper independent at a very young age. Because we had to be. So, so the thought of even having family dinners with me, like, I can't fathom it.
Oh wow.
I can't fathom it. Not in a bad way though. It's like when, we would eat separately, but, we'll still like, sit down and talk and, socialize, but it wasn't like a thing. I looked at my mom cook, we were all home, but I ran track, my brother played soccer, my sister did this, like, we all had our own lifestyle, so it rarely, like, all five of us being home at the same time.
Yeah.
Never really happened.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you guys do like family, like what about like special occasions like Christmas?
Oh yeah, holidays?
Is it a different story?
We have.
Holidays.
So it's so funny because most African kids and their parents have a very fake relationship. So they come, they go out, they live their life, they come home and they act like the golden child,
Yeah.
different outfits, their hair, they cover up, they don't act like themselves.
Not.
And it's so funny. Most of my friends do not drink with their parents. They have never drinking with their parents. Their parents would even let them drink. Even now today, it's like it took a while for my dad to even like accept us drinking with him. He's like, I'm not your Asian mate. Like, what am I drinking with you for? But now, we have fun now because it took them some time to realize that hey, like I'm gonna show up myself in every room. I don't alter. But I feel like maybe most foreign kids in general, or most people who have parents that immigrated, I feel like they're kind of scared to be them true selves.
Yeah, I am.
Because you don't want to disappoint them,
Yeah.
so you show up as the version that you want your parents to perceive you to be.
Yeah.
So our holidays, it's fun because we all act like ourselves. And we all have very big, I feel like all Nigerians have very big personalities, so our house is very loud. Everyone's screaming and shouting and debating and arguing, but it's fun. Right? To most people, it might be a lot, but to us, just like, this is how I was raised. Like, everyone is just themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's
That is
different.
really cool. Yeah.
We do have a tradition that we open our presents on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. We
Do
just-
all of them or just one?
What we would, all of them, except, I mean, when my children were small, then I would kind of like, if Santa brought them something special, then that would be in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
That's
it
good.
was, we would have like a steak dinner, Christmas
Oh,
Eve,
nice.
and we would eat steak and we would open our presents. And that's what, started my adopted family, and I just carried
You just
it
kept
over.
it.
I love that.
That's doing it.
Well, we did talk about some of the things that we want to keep as we, for our families and with us, our future families. What are some things that you absolutely do not want to take with you that you have picked up along the way or that you're trying to unlearn as far as when it comes to your family and your ways, if that makes sense? We'll start off with Janice.
Definitely, the closed-minded, racism type attitudes that I saw.
Yeah.
When I married my husband, that was their kid's dad, my own father didn't even come to the wedding because he was so against it.
Oh,
And he was a proclaimed preacher.
Ooh.
But he eventually came around by the time I had my first child, Zoe. Then it was more, it's something that they had to get used to. Because when I would talk to him, he went to a segregated school. And he was around that type of environment. Not to make an excuse for it, but I see where he came from.
Right.
And I learned from it. But definitely not taking that. No.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel, people, God made all of us. People are, all of us.
Right.
And who is better than somebody else? No. I mean, because the Bible says there's no favorites.
Yeah.
So, no, it's not, that is something definitely, no.
Yeah.
I will never ever take anything like that with me to my home.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
What about you, Jenna?
I don't have anything. I think that my mom, my parents being young, actually helped them because they were breaking tradition.
That's true.
They were breaking from their norm, and I think that open-mindedness meant or translated that habitually there really wasn't anything that I saw that I was like, I will never do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They really were finding themselves. I feel like along the way, being very young. So I think that that played to our favor, growing up for sure. So yeah.
That's good. What about you, Angel?
I'm not gonna. So this is something that I find most people with change is coming from a foreign background, which I'm sure you can relate, was the very high expectations from our parents.
yeah.
They were very high, very hard, and I feel like most people with immigrant parents resent their parents because the expectations were so high. Most of my friends do. It's a conversation my brother at one time did, but that's something I'm gonna still take. It's like a toxic thing, but I'm taking it because although my friends want to complain my mom was too hard, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was on lockdown, but you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. Although the method might have not been the best, although the expectation was super high and you felt like you're gonna break, I feel like it gave us the backbone
Yeah.
to operate in this generation of society, and just also where I'm at now. If my parents didn't have that level of expectation, I wouldn't be as successful as I am. Because I'm only 24, but I think I'm doing pretty good for myself because that's how my parents it was a perfection mindset. If it's not perfect, we're not accepting it.
Yeah.
So that can be very hard to look up to. But if your aim is perfection, if you fall a little short, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So I know that's kind of like a double-mindedness into it, but I feel like also the older you get, you look back and have more grace for your parents because you're just you had me at 24 or 25.
I couldn't imagine.
Right.
I'm confused. So they were just doing what they thought was best.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're going to, you said like, if you aim for perfection and you fall a little short, then it's okay. But do you feel like you're going to make them aware that it is okay to fall a little short, like when they do mess up?
Yeah, so my parents weren't like unreasonable, right? So let me set the record straight on that. So I feel like just Nigerians, we just have a very prideful just personality in general. Like very, everything we do, like we want to do the best. We want to be the best of the class. Every parent, if you're Nigerian, was first in their class. How many schools were there? Everyone is first.
How many schools were there?
No, because that's like a joke with us. It's like everyone was first position. Okay. Hey, you're lying. But yeah, so I feel like the mindset of that is you have to try. At least try to be the best. Not this mediocre, like, oh, I missed the mark, it's fine, there's next time, because there's not always next time, right? So just kind of having that mindset that everything you do, damn, it needs to be perfected. Like, it needs to be perfect. If it doesn't land that way, that's fine. At least you aimed for it, opposed to just being too scared to aim, which I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing nowadays, is people are too scared to even try.
Yeah.
So that's something I want to teach my kids. Like, yeah, I'm going to be hard. Yeah, I'm going to be like, I don't like to do it again, but it's still your craft, you know? So just have pride in what you do.
Yeah, because like I think one of the things that that I don't want to bring back is the limiting beliefs and the fear. You know, being that they migrated to the U.S. and didn't know anything, now that they're safe, they're like, oh, don't do that, that's dangerous. You know, I think that's why it comes with having jobs that are creative jobs. They think that's a risk. And another thing that is very important to me is the way that I speak to my children. Because I know my parents mean well, but they're always like, oh, you're stupid, or why'd you do that, that's so stupid. And when you're young and you keep hearing that, you're gonna think you're stupid, you know? And so the way I speak to my nieces, I always tell them they can do anything, they're the best, and I think you just have to change the narrative. But yeah, that's something that I don't want to bring into and teach my kids. But yeah.
That's real. I feel like that's how so my parents weren't as bad as I see from other situations. But I feel like the way we speak to ourselves is harsher than the culture of the American culture. I feel like the American culture is nice delivery, trying to be like acceptable, and then there's my mom, like, no. So that's definitely something that I'm working on myself, because that's not how I was raised. I was raised to, you have something to say, and you say it. You say it, and you don't beat it around the bush. So it's adjusting.
I think that's interesting. I feel like the privileged one in this. And I probably am, but I think it's something that I've noticed, like, sometimes I'll like go on Instagram and it will be like a parenting, which, by the way, side note, I will never post any of my children to Instagram because the comments are atrocious. Like, just the judgment of parenting the kids, like, there is no grace. I'm like, oh my God, why are you all so terrible?
There's no grace when you post a selfie.
Yeah,
Who does she
I'm
think
like,
she
oh
is?
my Lord, what is going on?
Yeah.
But my parents, though I never felt the pressure, to your point of like creative careers, there was some of that as well. Like, they were like, my mom was military, you know, she had to figure it out herself. She was military at 18, and she was like, I had to figure out life. My dad, you know, he went off and kind of did his own thing. He was actually, honestly, the one I had more grace with because he was artsy. But my mom specifically, I told her and my grandmother, I tell them, oh, I'm gonna do this art career, and they're like, why? Like, why would you do that? And for me, my mom was like, the bar was high. She never pressured me about the bar, but just seeing it, she accomplished a lot very early on in life. She retired as an officer in the military at like 30, and like climbed this corporate ladder and was very well off very young. You know what I mean? And so then to go back and be like,
I'm gonna be an artist.
She's like, okay, but what else are you gonna do? Because, yeah. Something I guess that's something that I notice if I have to critique it. Something that I do notice is that I think that for me, I want to be like now I know it's possible, right? I have to go get it, so I know it's possible. She didn't know it was possible in her circumstance, and I think that for me, that's something I definitely want to bring in for my kids is what are you good at? Because if someone had been paying attention to what I was good at instead of like, you know, what are you just smart at? Because I was a very book smart child as well. I was hyper intelligent as a child. And they took that and they were like, you are going to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then when you go the art route, they're like, what are you doing? So I think that for me, I definitely want to start the tradition of like, let's start looking at like where your strengths are for real. Like, what are you good at and what do you enjoy? And like cultivating that so that that's not a thing growing up later on.
Yeah. That's good.
That's a little one.
Yeah.
That reminds me of how my daughter got into dance. It was offered at the elementary school as like a special whatever, and the dance teacher was, you know, someone in the dance world, and she noticed her feet and were natural feet for dance.
Yeah.
That's how she got going into dance, and she was good at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And you cultivated that.
That's a good parenting.
Yeah.
I started taking her to dance classes.
Yeah.
I sure
Yeah.
did.
That's
You know, I did do that.
That's dope. It was not always easy convincing my family. But thanks for working with everyone.
So I feel like the older my parents, because I feel like it's just a difference when it comes to my parents, what they moved from here and what we're saying American dream for us.
Right.
Yeah, it's so different.
The American dream for my mom was America. There's jobs. There's people are walking around with money, and then they got here. It's like, oh, we actually have to work. Like,
Yeah.
It's not just picking up $100 bills on the street.
I wish.
So I feel like growing up, like I feel like my parents are day and night from how I was raised and how they are now, because they know. Right?
Yeah.
So growing up, if I told my mom I wanted to be an artist,
Producer.
she would have
Flip the table.
disowned me. She would have disowned me.
Flip that table.
Now, and I know I didn't say this to you guys, but I am part of Imagine Films as a producer. So when I told them that, their reaction was like so supportive, so
That's
we're
good.
happy for you. But it's only because like they see the possibility now
Right.
compared to when they first came here, like coming from a different country. Imagine like you like did all this to get to America, you're working your butt off, your dog like I want to be a rapper. Like
Yeah.
no.
I mean, we are kind of like that is when you say it like that.
Yeah.
The rapper part?
No, like it's like okay, really? Like
No.
Okay.
And the thing though is, I feel like Africans don't, or African children, so us first generation, we don't view it that way. So
Yeah.
for them, I can see why they would be offended.
Yeah,
we did
yeah.
so much to get here, and you want to be
And you want to be what?
a painter?
Yeah.
Like,
A what?
a painter.
Oh.
No offense to all the painters. No offense to the artists in the house, but it's just like there's a culture, which is why our parents only view success as the
Yeah.
lawyers, doctors,
Right.
because
Yeah.
in their countries, that's was the three stuff that was stable.
Right.
Goes to America, them learning that you can really do anything and be successful, but it took them years to notice and to really see like I won't be hungry if I go into a creative space.
Yeah.
Because child, my mom thought I was gonna starve, but yeah, it's just different. So it's just understanding that perspective because we're privileged that we can say that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But for
Yeah.
them, if they did go to those spaces
Imagine.
and the time it was, it wouldn't be the way it is
No.
now.
Yeah.
So I have to appreciate their
Yeah.
struggles too.
I think like I haven't really told my parents. I mean, my dad knows like I act and I have a podcast. I think he does. But like at first, you know, like when I wanted to be a singer, he's like, no, you have to have a real job and go to
Yeah.
school. So I didn't get to go to New York after high school. I had to go to college. But now I think when he sees the success and the fruit, he's like, oh, okay, now I can support you. And I feel like that's gonna happen as as we go on throughout the years.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah. Seeing, for most people, seeing
Yeah.
is believing.
Seeing,
They have to see it. Yeah.
especially Africans, like
Yeah.
I know when I first told my mom about this, she's like, but it's like they researched because my parents did research. I'm
Yeah.
like, Angel, did you know that they make money?
Hello.
Yes, I do. We're trying to make it work. But yeah, I feel like that's just something that hopefully we won't be that way.
Yeah.
They don't believe until they see it, and then they're gonna go tell their friends about it.
Yeah.
But until then, you're an embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. So hopefully I'll be better. But then again, I don't know, because if my daughter said it was to be an influencer, what would I tell her?
Oh Lord.
Influence what, sis?
Yeah.
What
But
are you
no,
influencing?
and the thing though is like that's how absurd our dreams would be.
Yes, that's what it
Yeah.
sounds like to
That's
them.
what it sounds like.
That's
So
what
it's
it
just
sounds
like,
like to them. Yeah.
how
I
do
didn't
you,
think about that, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
How-
think about it that way.
how do you know?
How do you know?
Because
Because it will, hey,
Would I be-
they're making money.
yeah, they're making money.
They are
So,
making
like,
money.
Would I be like a happy mom? Like, that'd be my first reaction, or would I be like our parents and be more delayed?
You know.
Because like, we don't really know how similar we are to our parents until we start having kids. It's just like,
That's true.
That's very
oh,
true.
I'm my mom's daughter for sure.
My
Yeah.
parents were also very honest. Like, there is a level of, again, giving them that grace. Like,
Right.
yeah, it's annoying when you're in it because you just want them to believe. You want them
Yeah.
to be proud of you, and you want them to support you. And there is a right and a wrong answer to like your kids telling you, "I want to do this thing." And
Yeah.
there is a right and a wrong answer, but my parents were also very honest. Like, they were like, we know you want to do this, but can you do something else too? Like, you need to do something else to support yourself. And they were very good. And I didn't always want to hear that. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
always want to hear like, okay, like whatever. Just,
Yeah.
just tell me you support me. Move on.
Right.
But now I'm like, no, you needed life skills. Like, you
Yeah.
needed to go work in an office. You needed to have something to support your dream. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, you picked this, and it's okay that you picked it, but it's not always just so easy. And they were, I think it's a double-edged sword, because there are some parents out here that are like, I'll give up everything for you to do this. And
Yeah.
my parents were like,
No.
you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So how are you gonna do that? What's the plan?
That's good.
So,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
good.
Do you think that, I know our friendship, I feel like I've known you guys for like so many years, but it's only like 2 months. But I feel like you guys know like the deep stuff, but you think that, looking ahead, do you see us having our own traditions like as a group? I think we should.
We love food.
We do,
I
and
really want to start the tradition of,
our pockets don't look.
no.
They're expensive friends, you guys.
I really want to start the tradition of dinner parties.
I love that. I would love that.
Yeah, like, I feel like it should be a thing. I want my kids to be like, girl, I met my mom through these extravagant dinner parties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be dope.
Let's
Let's hold each other accountable to it. We could just do one ourselves.
Yeah,
Like once a month.
I'd love to try Malaysian food.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I would love to cook crawfish etouffee.
Yes.
Gumbo, little.
I'll bring the rice.
The rice. Look, we're picky about the rice.
I'll bring the
We're
rice.
like, does she know how to make the rice?
You just put in the rice cooker.
No.
I know, I thought you just put
You would put it in
it
the rice cooker.
in. Is it equal parts rice, equal parts water, or a little bit more?
That's the way you do it. You just.
Oh,
No.
that's dangerous.
Oh,
No.
girl.
What if you in the rice cooker? But like, okay, so we eat a lot of rice. being Nigerian. So just like at this point, yeah, like I just look at it at this point because like I know the making rice.
You just know.
Well, ladies, I really appreciate you guys coming on here and discussing and chatting with me about traditions, what we want to bring, what we want to not bring. And I hope that you guys would like to come back on here someday in the future. But if not, it's okay. Yes. But thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode. I hope that you were able to take something out from it and apply it to your life or traditions that you want to do. But until next time, thank you again for tuning in to Self Chat. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.